Welcome to Roundtable Ops in Motion, where marketing, sales, and RevOps leader break down the systems, strategies, and data shaping modern GTM operations. Each episode brings you actionable insights, practical frameworks, and emerging trends, helping B2B teams stay aligned, efficient, and scalable.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Roundtable Ops in Motion. I'm Shiv, co-founder and CEO of Digital DI Consultants, joined by my co-founder Kawal. As always, we are very excited to bring you conversations with leaders who have built, scaled, and transformed businesses and share their experiences with our community. Today, we are delighted to be joined by Justin Gray. Justin is a serial entrepreneur, operator, investor, and a well-known name in B2B GTM space. Over the years, he has founded and successfully exited multiple companies, including LeadMD, one of the most respected consulting firms in the marketing and revenue operations world. What makes Justin's perspective particularly valuable is his belief that most startups don't struggle with what or the why, they struggle with how and who. Today, through In Revenue Capital, he combines his GTM expertise with investment to help founders build, scale, and execute more efficiently. Justin, we are thrilled to have you with us. Welcome to Ops in Motion.
Hey, nice to meet you both, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Justin. Would you like to tell us more about yourself and your journey a bit?
Well, I mean, you definitely listed the highlights there. So, yeah, I mean, I'm a serial entrepreneur and an operator. It's what I love to do. I love the 1 to 10 journey specifically. So that's what In Revenue is ultimately focused on. We call that seed and early A investments. We don't lead investments. We're always syndicating, meaning that my go-to-market channel is actually my partners. That's the same principle that I've founded and built every business that I've ever run on. Partner-led growth, partner ecosystems, and partner co-sale. So VC organizations that share our thesis, they share our focus and frankly that we like, will bring us deal flow. We evaluate those deals. We do a maximum of 4 deals, 3 to 4 deals per year. We just closed our second for 2026, so we're kind of on pace to do so again this year. When we invest, which we write between $1 and $3 million checks, we also step in from a go-to-market perspective in a very hands-on manner. So, as you mentioned, a lot of VCs come to market with a value add. I think, anyone that doesn't add some sort of value is at a great disadvantage in today's environment and market. However, we go what I consider to be a step far beyond that normal value add in that, yes, we will advise, we will share experience, we'll share our expertise, but we'll also get in, roll up our sleeves and operate right alongside the founders and their teams of the companies that we invest in. So that tends to be, our unique special sauce, and we call that motion operator immersive.
Wonderful. Well, that's quite impressive, Justin. Well, I've been personally following you for quite some time. Maybe I would like to take a step back, want to understand your experience of running a LeadMD and maybe talk a little bit about the exit as well. Then maybe we can move on from there.
Sure. So yeah, LeadMD was my latest go around. I've done in my career software, payments, and then services. I've never known anything. I've had no prior experience in any of those realms before getting into them. So I got into software in 2006, the very early days of SaaS, learned about it, helped build a business there, exited through sweat equity, used that sweat equity to start a host of other businesses, LeadMD being one of those. And I would say the reason I talk about LeadMD so much is not just kind of the recency bias, but it was a business based on people, which was certainly a first for me. Prior to that, again, it was software, it was payments, it was solution or product selling. And I guess you can make the same argument for consulting. However, that product walks out of your office every day on 2 legs. And certainly if you want to get the hardest, if you want to get a position at the hardest type of organization in the world, I firmly believe, go work for a consultancy, because the only reward for being great at your job is more work. So your A players tend to get saddled with not only the responsibility, but a lot of the day-to-day execution. And that certainly there was no lack of that at LeadMD. And so I think probably about a year in, I'd started the business based on a market need, which, originally founded in 2011. Marketing automation was just kind of building as a wave at that point. Marketo and Eloqua were going head to head. There were a number of, both incumbent and up-and-coming providers. And it was a really interesting time. Folks wanted the new technology, but had no idea how to do so. Things like automated lead flow, lifecycle, scoring, nurture, those were brand new nomenclature, brand new words. And so they needed support to do so. And so it was that organic response that ultimately birthed the business. And like I said, about a year in, we had, probably had around 750K in revenues. Most of that was recurring because we started off as a retainer-based business. But as you start hiring employees, I think every business owner has a moment where they kind of look around and say, like, what do I want this business to be? Rarely do we have that foresight right when you start a business, because again, you're often reacting to a demand, or at least I think the best businesses are. But as I started to look around, it dawned on me that same principle that I shared with you, like these people are working really hard. There's no path in sight to reducing that workload. If anything, it just increases. And so, I started to contemplate and ultimately build what I think was the fundamental value that we provided in that business, which was phantom equity. So, when I ultimately, fast forwarding to the exit there, 50% of that exit value went to my employees. And that was a principle that we started very early on in that first year, in that if you exchange your hard work, if you give me probably more than you would give any other employer, I will reward you with equity. And I will build that equity over time, meaning everyone that was hired had an initial grant. And as they moved up, either in responsibility or in role, we granted them more units. It was not, a phantom equity plan or a change control bonus program. You can look those up in our friend Claude or Chat GPT or whatever folks are using out there. But effectively, it's a way to grant equity in an organization without incurring tax liability right at the time of purchase. So there's no option grant, there's no cliff. The ultimate cliff is the liquidity event, which I loved because it set everyone focused on the same goal. My goal was certainly to exit that business. I didn't see myself running a consultancy for the next 40 years of my life, but I felt like it was an interesting market opportunity because the market was evolving so fast, not unlike it is today. New technologies were coming around. People needed guidance in that area, but they also just needed guidance as marketers, as demand generators, as folks engaging their buyer, because we had so many new avenues and ways to do so. The web was a thing, social was becoming a thing, mobile was there. So all these new pathways. And we were coming from a very archaic means of communicating with our buyer, certainly digitally. So as that grew, we knew we needed to grow a team, which ultimately we did. When we exited, we had 64 employees. A lot of those folks were there. One of them was there 10 years, right after myself. I was there for 11, the entire life cycle of the business. So we very effectively built a magnet with the promise that you can come to LeadMD, you can work on things that you would not have the opportunity to work on anywhere else, because we expanded over time, started in marketing automation, expanded into really the whole of marketing, everything from marketing strategy, brand, market research, to data science, what we now call AI, into go-to-market strategy, into other technologies beyond marketing automation, into CDP, into data warehouses. We really ran probably 85, 90% of what you do as a marketer. We didn't get into paid acquisition whatsoever. That was the only area that we stayed away from highly intentionally. But we provided people paths to learning. We called them tours of duty. You could come on with a 2-year tour of duty, which is our minimum. Like, what are you going to achieve in the next 2 years? What do you want to learn? What's that next step look like? And we really challenged people to think about their careers in that manner. And then at the end of that 2 years, we would choose to either re-up that tour of duty. Are you enjoying it? Do you see this opportunity as unique? Or is your next step something that we can't provide here? Like one gal that we hired wanted to be a nurse. And it was a big career change for her. She'd come up in marketing for her entire career. So we gave her the opportunity to learn some practices, to actually go to school at night and prepare herself for that eventual journey. And she ended up actually staying far beyond the initial 2 years. So, by looking at through that lens with the grant of equity, I think we developed a very unique environment. We definitely developed, I hate to say it because it's overused, but a sense of family there, a sense of camaraderie. And I've seen since we exited ultimately to private equity, but ever since that inflection point, I've had probably conversations with honestly 75% plus of the organization who have said, like, that was truly unique. I wish even the folks that recognized it when you're in the seat, hindsight truly is 2020, and they wish they would have recognized how unique it was at the time. And frankly, I say the same thing. So I know that's a long diatribe, but that is kind of the journey of LeadMD. We exited at the height of the market, which I could say that was intentional, but that was the bit of luck that any founder will tell you need to have. And it was a great opportunity for myself, my employees, certainly my family. And so I look back at it with a fondness and certainly as a perspective of success.
Wonderful.
Right.
Congratulations on it. Mhm.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So it feels so nice, Justin, when you're talking about Lead MD and the kind of things that you had done when, I mean, the kind of flexibility and the kind of programs or kind of initiatives that you took for the employees. I mean, I can just think about it, and I'm sure the employees would have gone through a great experience, and that experience stay with them forever. That's really nice.
Well, a lot of
And
those
then,
folks have gone on to start their own businesses, which I actually think
Mhm.
is the greatest testament to that
yes,
environment and the opportunity. So, that is, again, the pinnacle success. If you can bolster people's confidence, you can get them the experience they need, and they feel like they can go out and hang their shingle. So, yeah, I think it was
right.
unique.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean, I can just feel about, yeah. Okay,
the
sure.
other
Go
day, me
ahead.
and Kaval were talking about this, and I saw your post as well, right? Identifying your A players, making
Mhm.
sure you just back them to a point wherein, again, not being a cliche, you being part of, like, being forming a team which feels like a family, and giving your all. Eventually, it's a win-win for everybody. So couldn't agree more with that.
Mhm. Yeah, agreed.
Right.
Right. So moving on, Justin, we have moved from beyond the AI hype cycle today. From what you have
Have we?
seen, I hope so. I hope so. So, from what you are seeing today, Justin, where is AI genuinely creating value inside GTM teams? Want to know that. And also, where is it still falling short? Two things. One is what value AI is creating, if it scales, it is creating, and where is it really falling short? That's something we are curious to know about.
Yeah, so I think, just to comment briefly on, the AI maturity curve and where we're at. I don't think anyone can, truly say, because we don't know what the end of that
Mhm.
curve looks like. And, like, not that we even do with things like the web or web, 2.0, or, however you want to phrase that maturity curve. Like, things are always evolving is my point. But I think at the point we're at today, you can create the potential is there to create real value
Mm.
leveraging the tools in the market. Now, we did a study about this, and if you go to our website in revenue.com, you can go under our insights area on what we call cheat codes. And we did a pretty in-depth market study, both within our portfolio as well as the market itself, did a couple roundtables, gathered a lot of feedback, and really studied the use cases where AI is having an impact in GTM. It's very obvious on the coding side of the house, because coding is binary, literally, right? Like,
Mm.
it's black and white. It is a doctrine. It is a skill that you can learn and quantify. And so you can easily create great code. You can spin up, whether that's apps or software platforms, or whether it's websites or landing pages or, emails, whatever that output looks like. That is, in my opinion, like the most widely used, and the area that you're seeing the most value, not because it's replacing people, it's replacing elements in that process that were fundamentally inefficient. You can turn one engineer into a 10, 50, 100x engineer, because now they've got perfection at their fingertips, right? They've got the ability to QA. They've got, if you look at the whole, like, Claude Anthropic fiasco as of late, like,
Yeah.
they've got the ability to really get in and understand where code's falling short. They've got the ability to create awesome experiences for buyers. So on that end, I think the reason I bring that up is because you can be a silo within an organization and
Mm.
create a lot of value without that comprehensive autonomous organization, top down, bottom strategy. Where that is not possible is within go to market, because go to market is nuanced. Number one, it is not
Mm.
a black and white discipline. It is a gut discipline at its foundation. There are things that are systematized and have become the way, if you will, in terms of tracking, or the desire to track lead lifecycle, pipeline. Now, how we've been doing that's been fundamentally flawed, but we know those things exist, and we know we need to build those within some sort of construct. But how do you actually craft a message to engage a buyer? What do you tell them once they've become aware of your brand? How do you lead them through a buying process? Those are items that are intensely personal and intensely
Mhm.
variable. And so that's where the disconnect in the current market, I think, really manifests in the most detrimental way, in that most, if not all, of the organizations that we had talked to did not have a comprehensive, meaning organization-wide strategy. Some had departmental strategies. Others were just playing with experiments on an individual basis. Some folks were using their own personal subscriptions to AI. The interesting thing about AI is that almost everyone that we spoke to believes that it has outsized value to provide, but very quickly you turn the corner into, we don't have a comprehensive plan across the organization to realize that value. So, the things that we saw, just to answer the question very directly, where folks are, spending most of their time and effort and seeing direct value, are the elimination of operational and frictional areas, i.e. pipeline evaluation, reporting. Reporting is a big one. Like, the standard answer from any revenue operations, marketing ops, sales ops team historically has been, we can't do that because, and normally at the end of that because is, we need to buy a different platform, we need to re-architect our database, we need to change something that wasn't deployed with the amount of forethought that enables what that request is getting after. AI eliminates that immediately. You're able to take, what previously was structured data, view it in unstructured environments that allow for those data connections, and get quickly to the insight that you want. So very easy to do. Now, where it's harder to do is string along an entire buyer's journey. So have marketing, sales, implementation, customer success, renewals, all of those different functions, stringing together a comprehensive strategy that makes sense and then is aligned to the buyer, because you've got two really important components there. Number one, as I said, it needs to make sense. And making sense to the buyer is something that no one has ever cracked. People just either get lucky or they get closer or further away, because buyers change daily. And so that is a constant evolution. To get to that pinnacle of the mountain, very difficult. We've been trying, hundreds of years in whatever sales and marketing looked at like at that point in time. So that will always be evolving. But certainly if you have a disjointed strategy, which is the other side, the other variable there, meaning each team understands what platform they're using, how they're supposed to be using it, the design systems, the privacy concerns, all those areas need to be strung together from an operational standpoint. And then we can go do the creative aspect. And that is at its infancy today. I would say that most organizations do not have a handle on that. Strangely, some of your smaller organizations are actually doing a better job. It's kind of the innovator's dilemma aspect of things. Smaller teams can be driven more easily through, a top-down strategy, and those founders, CEOs that are taking the reins and really saying we are going to be an AI-first organization. Those are the orgs where we see, the most flow through from a consistency standpoint. Enterprises have a tough job to do.
Yeah, right. I think most of the organization, what we have also seen is going through trial and error. They try something and see that, okay, if this is going to work or not work. And as you also mentioned, there's disconnection between the departments. Marketing tends to use one of the automation platforms, sales is using another CRM, and the data is not syncing in the way that it should be. And customer success is struggling to how do I process my data and how do I get to the process that I have to get to? So yeah, all of these has to be aligned. People are behind AI. I mean, AI is good to a point where you have proper data, you have proper technology and team and all of that collectively coming together to build a pipeline to work towards getting that revenue, building towards the business outcome. I think that's very important. And that has been lost because all of these teams are working in silo. Marketing thinks, okay, I need to take care of the campaigns, lead scoring, lead qualification. Sales is like, no, I want to make this pipeline huge and big and should run through the whole year. And then customers are just like, I want to make, yeah. Go ahead, sorry.
100% agreed. You bring up a word that I think is important to double click on there, which is silo. And yeah, there are operational and lifecycle silos there. There are system silos, but the area that would have reduced a lot of that experimentation need on what should we do, not what's working, because what's working is a constant experiment, but what should we do? Right. It has been the data aspect is what is not enabling that to be a confident path and decision, because most organizations have been treating data not only within silos, but as an administrative afterthought. If you think about how CRM has been used, over the course of the last 20 years, ever since it's been in the cloud, right? The challenge there is that CRM is this administrative management tool, meaning, are you doing the activity that I want to measure you on? And in order to avoid that monkey on my back, I've got to go in there and log my activity. I've got to fill out my fields. When do I do that? At the last possible minute that I can, right before the pipeline meeting, right before my manager runs a report. It's never been enabling the process.
Yeah.
The organizations that have treated that data, and you think about all the places we capture data these days, email, Slack, online, via social, in CRM, like there's in tickets, there's so many areas. And organizations that have the few that have taken an organized and orchestrated strategy to capturing as much as possible are the ones that are on the forefront of that wave, because AI needs data to
Right.
and this is really important, to present an accurate answer. AI will always present an answer. And this is what I see a lot of in these experiments that you mentioned is, hey, look at what I did with Claude. This is awesome. I ran a customer analysis and look at all these opportunities that we have. And if you double click into that, and please do, that would be the number one takeaway probably from my side, which is because there's an output, don't just trust that output. Like,
Yes.
Right.
AI is incredibly utopian, it's incredibly positive, and it hallucinates in that it will always give you an answer. If you double click into that, you'll find that either the lack of data or its desire to make things make sense are presenting items that are not real world. So, you've got to quickly get your arms around a strategy to log and collect as much data as possible. And that's where I see a lot of organizations seeing benefit, which is take all of my communication channels and bring them into some sort of data structure, whether it's a data warehouse, whether it's CRM, but capture those communications, because that is what will allow us to train models over time. That small language model, LLMs are foundational, they are what they are. If you can extend that into your organization in a proprietary data set that is comprehensive, that you can rely on, that is going to be the impetus for taking the next step into value.
Right, very true. I mean, the operator who is there in the organization has to look through all the departments and feel like it's one system and then work through it. It's like the entire customer journey. I think nothing is beyond that. So whatever you do in marketing and sales or customer success, it all has to be aligned to a customer journey. At the end of the day, the customer journey is giving us that business outcome and growing our revenue, and whatever we are trying to do is at the end of the day for the customers. And I think they should get that experience, and even the organization to do those forecasting and understanding the pipeline. They have to have that understanding. And for that, as you mentioned, data in and data out, I feel is really important. So if you have garbage in your system, you're not going to get that forecasting. And AI is going to give you an answer, but it's not maybe the right, maybe not the complete answer, or maybe something which is going to be misleading. So you got to always look into what are you putting into AI to get those answers. I mean, there are different AI tools, Claude and ChatGPT and all of that. So they give you a lot of good answers, but how those answers are helping you to reach your goals, to help grow your business, depends on like what are you putting into as an input, as a prompt, or what you have in your CRM and automation platforms. I think that's very important. And once organization understand these things, I think all of these teams can work together and the technology would actually give them the results that they're expecting. Not from the AI itself, but from their tools and the technology, what they are dealing with every day.
And ultimately from the buyer, the customer, right? Like
Yes,
that's
of
the
course.
ultimate test of
Mhm.
are these tools
Ultimate.
working?
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you spoke about this, Justin and Kawal, right? You see on LinkedIn every other post saying that, hey, I built this in 20 minutes, hey, I built this in 2 hours. I think the definitely takeaway from this podcast is do check the output, right? What is the output from AI that you're trying to build? Does it really make sense? Is that what you're looking for? Does it hold good today? Does it hold good tomorrow and in near future as well? Well, moving on, Justin, would love to know more about your book, The Go-to-Market Cheat Code, the Secret to Unlocking B2B Growth. I did get a chance to go through some of the important points within the book. Just walk us through about it. Would love to know more.
Yeah, I can always relate. I can pretty much relate that book to any topic. So because we've been talking about AI, I'll do so there. So we've talked a lot about tools and evolving technology and what a value add they can be to businesses, and that bears the question: what is the value that humans have to a business? And squarely, as automation, as intelligence really becomes a turnkey asset for organizations. And that's truly what I think AI will enable. You're going to see, I think, an even stronger desire and grasp for relationships, for humans, for trust. And that is the impetus and central thesis of the book, which is how do you tap into established trust channels into people that you want to engage with, that you care about, that you want to care about you. In my opinion, and the opinions of my co-founders, that is partnerships. I think partnerships have gotten a bad name because of how they've been executed over the last 2.5 decades. But partnerships really can be anyone you can develop a symbiotic relationship with, a co-service relationship with. In the context of the book, it is buyers. Like, how do I as an organization engage my ideal buyer? Now, of course, I can try to reach out to them in a cold manner. I can try to, wave my hands and get their attention by any means necessary. But it's much more efficient to partner with other technology providers, solution providers, advisors, relationships that buyer has in order to gain that access. It's, again, I mentioned at the top of this podcast, that's how I built every business, just quite frankly, looking at a market and saying, I don't have a historic inroad into this market. I didn't operate in that space prior and spin out a business, or I wasn't serving a particular customer and then chose to go, create my own startup to serve the same buyer. These were new buyers in a new space. How do I get access to them? And so I'll tell the quick anecdote through Marketo. Like, we started off as a Marketo agency, implementing and helping to facilitate the operations of marketing automation. In order to get access to those buyers, we already knew they had already purchased through Marketo. They had the solution. They were looking for folks to help them run it, to fill the skills gap that they had. And so we formed a very deep partnership with Marketo, not at the logo level. Like, that's table stakes. You have to have an agreement. You have to have an understanding of what both organizations want to get out of that partnership, but really at the department and human level, i.e., yes, their sellers want to sell more deals. How do we help them do so? How do we form relationships at the team leads, at the actual AE level, to understand what their barriers are? And just, again, speaking through that example, oftentimes, you had sellers that were 20, 30 somethings that were trying to go into boardrooms and engage CEOs, CMOs, CROs that ultimately held the purchasing decision. They didn't care about the features and functions of marketing automation. They cared about total cost of ownership. They cared about what it was going to drive from an ROI standpoint. They cared about what skills and people and organizational structures they were going to have to make changes for. We spoke CMO. We were marketers that had been CMOs, CROs, VPs of marketing and demand. We knew what those environments were. So we were able to partner with them literally at an individual level to solve for that business need. We could usher them into the board meeting. We could put together comprehensive business cases. We could speak to the CFO, help them understand TCO, help them understand how we were going to reduce that cost of ownership. We were going to accelerate their skill set augmentation. We were going to accelerate their time to returns and actually illustrate what those returns were going to be. And so we formed deep partnerships in sales. We did over, what was the final number? Over 6,000 implementations of the Marketo platform over the entire life cycle of the business. We did white label implementations on behalf of Marketo, where we were acting as Marketo and later Adobe to develop those or deploy those implementations. We did the same thing with other technology providers, not only within sales, but in customer success, all based on the fundamental principle of, I don't just need to serve the business, I need to serve the person. And I am going to give something before I ever expect to get something within that relationship. Spoiler alert, that is the thesis of the book. We go through and we tell all of those stories from inception all the way through maturity and ultimately acquisition, on how that motion began and evolved and was the fundamental underpinning of running a consultancy that also had an extreme focus on go-to-market for ourselves, meaning our own sales motion, which is where a lot of consultancies, agencies fall down, because they go out and they win business, then they have to pivot their chair and service that business. And then it's feast or famine. Oh, I'm through that project. I've got to go out and sell again. We always had a dedicated sales team. We always ran dedicated go-to-market motions. We operated just like our customers, and that enabled us to consult on those practices in a much more formed and real world manner. So that is the book, that is the go-to-market cheat code. And I think it's even more relevant these days in the age of AI because the unique skill sets of humans are at a premium. And the folks that can go out and really execute those skill sets in a best-in-class manner are creating massive market value for themselves and the ultimate companies that they serve.
Wonderful. Well, this is for everyone who's listening out there. Must-read book for everyone who really wants to understand how to build a business, scale it, and take it to the next level. Well, that's one of the fundamentals we try and do, Justin, as well, where you're not literally trying to sell to a business, but you're trying to sell to a persona, or to a title, to a person. Once you're able to understand that, then you become part of that particular team or a member, try and sell his or her idea to the leadership team, to the board, right? Once you are able to do that, everybody is a win-win situation, and you get to a point wherein you're trying to justify the investment, you're trying to justify the time that's being spent in a relationship, and get to an outcome wherein everybody is happy about it. All right.
And I think just to interject
Sure.
a quick item on that, the minute that you replace selling with value creation, that is the difference in that process. And that's what, you see this trend towards forward deployed engineers and all of that. It's about bringing value ahead of the financial exchange. The value exchange has to be the leading motion.
Well, absolutely. Well, I hate to say, I wish we had more time. Justin is a busy person. We would let him go. With that, one of the takeaways, as Justin said, is double check your AI output. I think that's extremely important. Just do not blindly believe what's been given to you or what's been just thrown at your way. AI isn't the strategy today. It's an accelerator. The real advantage still comes from building the right GTM foundation, aligning teams, creating systems that scale. With that, Justin, thank you so much for your time. I think we had a great time chatting about various aspects. Like I said, I wish we had more time. Hopefully, we would love to have you some other time and have another set of questions being answered and another round of conversation. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you both. Great to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I don't know if you overtook the time, Justin. We had slotted for 25 minutes, but I think we are past 14 minutes. So.
That's all right. I was late, so I figured it was only right that we go over a bit. But I appreciate it, guys. Let me know when it goes live, and we'll certainly help promote it.
All right. Thank you so much. Thanks for
all right. Thanks, guys.
this.
Nice to meet you both.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Talk soon. Bye.
Bye.